Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Sisterhood Global Network. We are live from New Life Church of Metro Detroit, and I'm here. I'm so excited to have the couple guests here with us today. We are on a wellness series, and a couple months ago we had Mary Carpenter, which her and her husband own a practice out in Rochester Hills called Insight Counseling. And last month we had Addie Yinka, and she did a marvelous presentation about financial wellness. And this month we have live right now my doctor, Dr. Jonathan Lazar, and his daughter, which is Jaden. And we're so thankful that you are joining us today. I just want to say welcome to Sisterhood Global Network.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to bring them on a few reasons. First of all, my own testimony that I have, and I know you guys have a testimony too that I would like you to share. Um, but could you introduce yourself? Because people think, okay, you're going to a chiropractor, but you are not like any other chiropractor. I've been to chiropractors before. You are not the same. So could you just introduce yourselves and tell us just a little bit about what you do?
Sure. I'll let ladies go first.
Aw.
And is this a coffee chat? Like if I drink coffee, is that cool in this chat?
Coffee,
Okay. I like
cheers.
My name is Jaden. I work with Dr. Lazar and we work in a chiropractic office and in a little bit he'll share some of his story of why he became a chiropractor, but I love working with patients, so we don't pop, crack, or twist. It's very, very gentle. So it's so safe. My son was adjusted as soon as we got out of the operating room.
Well,
it's hard to my story is not that cool, but we uh I decided to go to chiropractic school as a career move. And when I got there, I was in a really, really, really major health crisis. And it wasn't until I had the pressure taken off my brainstem, which sounds really weird, I know, and it was weird. But I had the pressure taken off my brainstem, and over the next year or so, I was able to get off 9 prescription medications, and
wow.
that wasn't my goal. What I learned through that process, what God allowed me to see was, we're fearfully and wonderfully made, and it doesn't mean we never need any of those things.
Yeah.
It just means that if we're on a bunch of those things long term, there's probably something functional going on. And when we're functioning the way He created us and designed us to function, then we probably don't need all of that other stuff. So that was the beginning of a crazy journey for sure.
So how did you get introduced to that though? I mean, even with your own testimony, there had to have been some process. How did that even happen?
So I had been going to a chiropractor. My parents, I'm so grateful. They took me when I was in high school. I was a really sick kid. I mean, as a baby, I had multiple surgeries. I had uh, malignant cancer that required surgeries. And then I was just on medication after medication after medication. Um, Imitrex for migraines and antidepressants by the time I left for college, anti-anxiety medication. And it was just, I was a good patient. I mean, I did what I was told, and I actually was headed to medical school. And through a series of things that God used to show me that was not what He created me for,
Hmm.
I ended up just deciding to go to chiropractic school as a career. There was nothing, I didn't have any big life changing experiences. I was still sick. I didn't have it, but it made sense to me. And I just thought, like, I'm taking all these drugs, I've had all these surgeries. I'm not dead, so I'm grateful for that. But I,
Yeah.
I actually don't think I'm any healthier. In fact, I feel like I'm getting older really fast because I thought old meant sick or sick meant old or something.
Yeah.
So, and I'm like 20, right? I mean, it didn't make any sense, but I didn't know any different. So I went to chiropractic school, and then I had this moment of crisis where I had this horrible migraine. It was in the middle of finals. Jaden was 6 months old. My mom was having back surgery. My wife and daughter, Jaden, left from Missouri or Iowa to come to Michigan to be with my mom. And
Oh.
it was snowing, and I'm a positive thinker. So I was positive they were going to get in a car accident and die. And like
Oh,
all of it was just so stressful. And so I didn't realize this had anything to do with it, but I ended up getting adjusted and just a normal neck adjustment. And the next morning, I was in the hospital with bronchitis and pneumonia. That wasn't unusual for me, but because of that, I called a colleague and said, "Look, I have finals tomorrow. I don't know what to do." And she said that I should come get adjusted. And that sounded like really dumb advice to me because I had been getting adjusted for so many years, almost a decade probably at that point. And so I didn't see the value of going to get adjusted. And my neck and back hurt, I suppose, but it's like, why, how is getting adjusted a priority right now? I can't breathe.
right.
But something told me, like, I don't know what else to do. So I went in and she explained to me how my brain stem is what controls my breathing. Like if somebody breaks their neck, they die. And part of that is because, like death by hanging, not to be so morbid, but that's actually what killed, like breaking the neck itself is just breaking bones. But when the nervous system can't communicate any longer for you to breathe, that's what makes people die. And I thought, okay, what a morbid way to look at that. But that's crazy. So if it's mine's not broken, but if I have pressure there, it will make it so I can't breathe as well. Like, is that what
Wow.
you're saying? And she said, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. And also, all of our immune system is controlled directly. Like the primary control center of our immune system is in our brainstem as well. So, right between the bottom of our earlobes, like directly in the center of our head, is this thing, our brainstem, that controls our primal functions, breathing and digestion and sleeping. And I mean, kind of big deal things. And
Yeah.
I had pressure on mine and I didn't know that. And over 80% of people walking around have pressure on theirs and they don't know that. They might know they have migraines, or they might know they have, chronic fatigue, or they might know they have anxiety or depression or something, but they don't realize that oftentimes, most of the time, honestly, that's coming from a malfunctioning nervous system. So she just did these weird x-rays on me that I'd never seen, showed me that this tiny 2.5 ounce bone had moved over and was putting pressure on my brainstem. And when I say she adjusted me, I felt like she just touched me. I didn't even think I was getting adjusted because it was
Yeah.
so gentle. And then about 2 hours later, I didn't think anything happened. I was actually a little bit embarrassed, and I was studying, and my wife called and asked how I was doing. And I said, I'm fine. Why? And she said, well, honey, you were in the hospital this morning, but you sound fine. Are you still coughing? And I thought, oh my gosh, no, I'm not still coughing. And then it was so unbelievable to me that I chose not to believe it. I was like,
Mm.
that's not, it can't be that. I mean, it couldn't be that. So I spent the next year trying to prove that wrong. And that was how I got off all the medications. I just didn't think it can't be that simple, is what I still think that. I just see it so much that I can't really argue with it anymore.
Yeah, it's really amazing because I think, well, the very first time that I came to you guys, um, I remember thinking, what is the difference? First of all, let me back up. I heard you on the radio for a moment, and it isn't something that I've really listened to. I know I've heard your voice before, and because it sounded to me like, okay, they're doing some infomercial thing. I was about to turn it off, and something you said about the brainstem and how it lined up. There was, and I can't tell you exactly what it was that day, but I knew I had to call, and that's when I called and spoke to Jaden. And I know I probably had 50 questions like usual.
That's okay.
But I was skeptical, and I remember sitting there, and Dr. Dan was on my right in your boardroom, and there was another doctor, or somebody there training that day, um, and I remember they came in after they got done scanning, and he goes, I don't even know how you're functioning. He said,
Yeah.
you're so out of alignment. And I said, I know. He goes, let me show you what you look like. And he did. And he goes, I can't even go any further. And he said, how do you even walk? And so I remember whoever that was, I can't remember his name, over here to my left said something. I turned like this and he goes, "You can't even turn your neck. You have to turn your whole body." And I said,
Mhm.
"Right." And so my first treatment with you guys, I walked out thinking, I think I just got ripped off. Like I
Exactly.
did.
I felt the same way when I was the patient. I get it. Yeah.
But the next morning, um, I woke up and it felt like I literally was drunk. I couldn't walk straight. I almost ran my head into the wall and I got up, I went to the bathroom and all the way there as I'm walking, I'm like, my left side feels longer now than my right side. Like, what did they just do to me? And so the next appointment, you told me that's exactly what we want to hear. And, here it is 7 months, I think 7 going into 8
Mhm.
months later, I am I'm totally amazed because it feels like very little work is being done. And when you think of chiropractic care, you think, like I've had before, they're going to, jam my joints. They're going to really, torque on my spine. And I walk out and I'm the same. This is so very different. And that's why I feel like I just really wanted to share you with the world, you know. But
Well, we're grateful. I think that's most of the way people hear because it doesn't make any sense. I mean, your story is so common.
mhm,
And, if we didn't hear about it as a kid, I mean, think about that. If we don't hear about it as a kid, then we have to really put some things aside or be open-minded or there's nothing weird or odd about it. Your nervous system controls your involuntary posture muscles. So when we reset that, your leg is gonna the whole left side of your body is gonna relax and that leg, you're not gonna be contracted anymore, and that leg's gonna hit the ground the same way the right leg is. But it's so different and it seems so foreign, yet it's honestly those chefs that will like travel to Europe and then they'll reintroduce these dishes from 500 years ago. They'll just reintroduce it to the public, and people are like, "This is amazing! It's
yeah,
this new," and they're like, "It's actually old. There's nothing new about it. We're just like
right,
reintroducing it." And so, if you think about it, I mean, God designed your body to heal and regulate. I mean, if you cut your finger, it's going to heal on its own if you're
yeah,
alive.
yeah,
And so, He designed our bodies to heal and regulate. Yet, as a society, we're taught to live our lives like God messed up. I mean, I must have an Imitrex deficiency. God didn't create me with enough Imitrex in my bloodstream. That's why I get migraines. Or I deal with allergies,
yeah,
and so God made my body wrong or made the pollen the wrong kind. And it's not that we don't deal with those things, but it's not also we don't have to drift and be okay with it. Like if we pull the weeds, the garden looks good. We have to be intentional about it, but we have to pull the weeds. And we often, as a society, we chase, success or money or relationships. All of those are fine, but we spend our lives chasing those things and we really ignore our health. And it's like that would be like we never save our money, we don't tithe, we don't invest, we just
right,
spend however we feel like. And then when we're out of money, that's when we go, oh crap, I have to learn how to do stuff with my money. And not that God can't use that. It's just that, we don't think about our health until we lose it.
right,
And it's like, whoa, we could have been, how many lives were not affected because we were distracted and sick and suffering and
mm,
medicated, you know? And so I actually think we have an ethical and moral and spiritual responsibility to offer our best selves to the world. I actually think that that's not to over spiritualize it, but I do. I mean, hey, if God put us in the game, we better play hard, man,
yeah.
you know?
I love
So,
that about your guys' philosophy too, and that's the other thing too that I felt like, okay, you're on the same in the same mindset. So it was very safe to come in, to be able to be treated by somebody that they do put God first. And um, I love that about your whole office. You just walk in and you have that very peaceful, um, it's it's like walking into the presence of God, when you get into the presence of God. And so there is a very safe place in your office, and I mean, you guys have done a beautiful job. Um, I can't speak more highly of you guys, really, and for what you've done personally for me. I am so ecstatic, and my brother-in-law, actually, like I said, he was telling. I was telling you this before we got on live. He was telling me, Kelly, it was like somebody has removed a lining of oppression off of you. It's like the
Mm.
joy is back. And I thought about that. I've been thinking about that actually for a little while, and I'm like, I have been in this church for in here personally for going on 11, 12, going maybe 12 years now. And
Mhm.
um, I thought, you know what? I don't think that really I am known for who I was
Mm.
without being in pain. And so I
Sure.
thought, wow, I feel like a new me, and like I have to be reintroduced to people and things. It's very incredible. But I do want to show our audience, because I just got this last night, and I sat there and cried, and it's
Mm.
my new license. And to show my license from 2021, and Dave so kindly blackened everything out, so it's not,
Good job, Dave.
good job, Dave. But I wanted to show, if you can see this. I don't know how you guys are seeing this, but the top picture was actually what I thought was a good day. You can see the swelling of my neck. Like, my neck is so swollen. Can you see this okay? Um,
Mhm.
and then the bottom was actually a a bad day. It's a bad hair day, a bad day, just because I ran out of the house and everything. But the neck, just what you guys have done in such a short period of time. And I'm doing this. Like, I know a lot of people are like, that's not a lot of range of motion, but you don't understand. That's huge. Like, me to even be able to do this, or to look up. I have not looked up in 20 something years. And so um, I'm so grateful. And I just know that, this is really just the beginning of this journey.
That's right. That's right.
I want to speak to what you said a little bit ago when I took your phone call. I remember like on the phone, I was like, oh, like, I was like, I always like get this feeling. And as soon as we got off the phone, I went and told Dr. Lazar, I was like, we are going to get her life back.
I remember that actually.
Like, I was like, we have to figure out, like, she has to start care. I was like, there's like no other option for her.
Yeah.
We will get her life back. And so I remember telling him that.
Yeah,
I remember that too, actually. I don't know why, but I do remember that.
it was, well, and to take, like I said, it's been 24 years. It's been actually now 24 years when um, was working at a I was working at a place of building supply company. I'll put it that way. And the man, how it started, the man didn't put the banners up in the aisle, and I happened to walk around at the wrong time. And just then, the I just remember, and I know this was a God thing, because nobody else was around, but I heard step back. And
Mm.
I took one step back, and the next thing I recall was trying to scream. And because I was being crushed against a steel beam. And
Wow.
so, and I looked over, and if I hadn't taken that one step back, you and I would not be here talking, because that steel was crushed. And so that machine came and was crushing me. Well, fast forward through all that, there's been pain clinic and there's been tons of physical therapy and just I hired my own personal trainer. I mean, it has felt like this fight for
Mm.
20 something years. Like I'm and but thankfully part of it's my German mentality where I can't stop. But then I know first and foremost that it has been the Lord that has continued and told me over and over, my grace is sufficient for you. And so and in your weakness, that's where that strength is going to come from. And so I felt like it's always been a fight. I for the very first time in this entire time, I have felt like it's not a fight anymore. It's just going to be a walk. Like it's going to be a process now. It's going to be to get me to the wellness point that God has for me. And I just, like I said, I tell people about you guys all the time, and I am excited for what's happening. And I know, like I said, it's just the beginning. And that call, Jaden, that I had with you, I'm like, I remember hanging up thinking, she is going to think that they don't want me around because I have so many questions.
And that's how we know, next steps to take,
Yeah.
how to navigate.
That's an interesting point, Jaden. I actually never w- presented it that concisely. I will. There's nothing wrong with somebody asking if their insurance covers. I will tell you there is something about, you know how if you're on a job interview, or let's say you're interviewing an applicant for a position
Hmm.
and they come in and sit down and they go, yeah, what's the pay? What are my benefits?
Right.
Immediately. And you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, we don't even know if we like you yet. What are you talking about? You know?
Right.
And so there is something to be said about if somebody was like, hey, I need help. I need to know if you can help me. By the way, is this anything insurance would cover? That's so different than like, hey, will my insurance cover this? We're like, cover what? We don't know what's going on. We
Right.
don't know what's wrong. We don't know what you need. We don't know if we can help you. We don't know if you want us to help. Like, the heck kind of question is that? And I mean, we don't talk to people that way, but it's very interesting, you know, even the way like you called asking for help,
Hmm.
you know, and that's different than, hey, you guys are guilty until proven innocent. Prove to me that you can help me. That wasn't what it was at all. Your
Mm-mm.
whole demeanor was like, I don't know. I don't even know if there's anything that can be done, but if there
Yeah.
is, and it's like, all right, well, we don't either, but let's look, you know?
Yeah.
I remember Dr. Lazar too. I was like, she is so positive. I was like, stubbed my, I like hit my knee on the printer that's been in the same spot for 12 years. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I hate this. This printer's always in my way every time. And I'm like sitting here listening to you like tell your story and share, what's happened and a smile on your face and all this stuff. And even in the office, and you're like, it's not a great day today, but we're gonna make it a great day. And I was like, I was very impressed.
Yeah, that's cool. That's very cool. I do want to also say, I don't want to send the wrong impression that or expectation that if we're in the center of God's will for our life, we won't have any challenges.
Right.
Because it's very that's risky to say, okay, we're here to help you reach your full God-given potential. And so if you ever have pain, that means you're not in God's will and something wrong has happened. And that's not what we're saying at all. I mean, you know, say that to the parents whose child was born with special needs. Like it doesn't, it's one thing if we're born with one arm and then we're fighting our whole life like I've got to be able to do things with two arms. Okay, look, you're not going to do things with two arms unless you get a prosthetic arm, but God created you with one arm.
Yeah.
You better learn how to live life with one arm. That's not like, don't waste your energy trying to fight that one. You know what I mean? But if we have a functional problem, we're just not functioning well. We're not sleeping well. We don't have the right energy. Our blood pressure is not right. Our brain chemistry is not right. Our attitude or focus or memory. Like, if it's a functional problem, you better believe. there's something that needs to be done with it. And so that's, I would just encourage people, if you have a problem with one of your parts, like if you're missing your arm, or if you have a hole in your heart, or if you have, those require interventions involving fixing parts, just like your car would, you know?
Right.
But if you're having a functional problem, and here's a big, big indicator, if yours is not a parts problem, you'll go to the doctors and they'll say, everything looks fine. And you go, that makes no sense because I feel horrible.
Yeah.
And they say, well, that just happens sometimes. And they're not being cavalier. It's just they're parts experts. And so if they don't see anything wrong with your parts, they won't see a problem. And there wouldn't be anything for them to do, which ultimately is good news. Like you don't want something wrong with your parts, you know?
I want
Ve-
to speak a little bit to what you just said, Dr. Lazar, and I'll be quick, but it's a little bit of my story. When I was pregnant with my son, it was called single umbilical artery. And so you're supposed to have two arteries and one vein in the umbilical cord, and I had one artery. So they said he's going to stop growing. We hope he makes it halfway to 20 weeks, and we'll have to induce labor. We hope he makes it and we hope he survives, but their goal was we hope he at least makes it to 20 weeks. And I was so scared. I was like I didn't even know what to think. And so they were recommending you do genetic testing, or maybe you don't follow through with this pregnancy. And like I was like, why are they
Say that for what it is.
they were recommending abortion.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, why is this your first thought?
Yeah.
Why is this what you're telling me? And so I was like, I am very, very pro-life. I feel like every baby deserves to be born.
Yeah.
And so I said, I'll get adjusted. I talked with my dad and he was like, we're going to do this. We're going to get adjusted. You're going to use our beamer. It's a circulation device. And we made this plan. And at my 20-week visit, that was considered high risk pregnancy. And I had a lot of restrictions. And at my 20-week visit, I had visits every week at least. And they said, we've never seen this before. He's growing. And I said, yeah. And I said, I'm getting adjusted at least 3 times a week right now, and I'm using this circulation device. And they said, it's not that. We don't know what it is. It's not that though. And I was like, why are you telling me this? I was like, I know this is working and it's getting the results that I'm looking for. So he made it full term, and he never stopped growing, and he had the exact amount of blood flow that he needed, and he's super healthy, and he'll be 17 months next week.
Oh, that is fantastic. And I'm glad you brought that up. Say it for what it is, because that really is their very first thought. Something's wrong, then then dispose of it. Like it's something disposable, and it's not. And I'm so grateful, you had that education, you had that upbringing, you had that father, you had everything in place that now look at he's a healthy boy. So that's amazing.
And I'll say too, if I may, I don't want there to be any triggers or anything, so I'll keep it um mild. But Jaden's pregnancy was not from a loving relationship
Mm,
either. And so it was not her choice. It was so if anybody had a right to
mm,
say, this wasn't my plan, this is not what I want, this can't be what God planned for me because it has nothing to do with any choices I made, uh, that would be, in the world's eyes, a very justifiable
yeah.
position. Stay in Iowa, stay in chiropractic school, don't put your career on hold and move back home and raise this baby that you didn't ask for. Do but and then if that wasn't enough, hey, by the way, we don't think your baby's going to make it. So why don't you just end things now and get back to what it
Right.
is you want to do? Because this isn't really what you chose anyway. So, now it's justified even more. I mean, not actually, but that was kind of the message that she was getting. And um, Charlie Kirk has said, and I respect it so much. And listen, I'm a white Christian conservative male, so I don't have a whole lot of credibility when I say how we were conceived doesn't change our God-given rights,
Mhm.
and I'm sensitive to that, and I don't say that with judgment or anything like that. I say that because, praise God. And obviously Oliver's going to do such huge things for God's kingdom that
Yes.
Satan didn't want him here. I mean,
That's what
I
I
can't
was
think of another
thinking.
way. Yeah, like
Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that was exactly what I was thinking as you were talking. That's wow. That's an amazing story. And I don't know if you want to elaborate on that a little bit or anything, but Jaden, that is amazing and what a blessing. And, you know, I hope that somebody's listening right now and that can actually identify with that and know to do the right thing, know to take the right
absolutely.
steps. So thank you.
And
Of
thanks for
course.
she's so brave in being willing to share her story and let God use that because um, you know, I I'm not sure I would want the world to know if something like that happened to me. Like I
Right.
just she's super brave for that. But to finish that thought, and then I mean it's her experience, not mine. But what I will tell you is even after Oliver was born, um, you know, he, his nervous system, our nervous system is what allows us to grow and develop. And so after a traumatic birth,
I was in labor for 3 days,
Oh
and it
my
was
goodness.
like everything that could go wrong was going wrong, and
which is an interesting point as well, because I will tell you this that God's creation needs no help, it
Mhm.
just needs no interference. And every time there's interference, so in other words, well meaning people took matters into their own hands and said, oh, your blood pressure is getting a little high. The baby's not in distress and your blood pressure is not too high, but it's kind of approaching that. Let's induce labor. And we're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like her body will go into labor when it's ready to go into labor, and the baby will come when the baby's ready to come. And they're like, no, we really, we think this is best. And so, I mean, it's like, uh, okay, if that's what you think is best.
Yeah.
And so, but it wasn't best, and it was hard on her. It was hard on the baby, and then they ended up having to do a C-section that was unplanned, and that's very traumatic.
Yeah.
Women think that a C-section is a safer birth for babies.
Mm-mm.
I've got video, not of Jaden's, but like I do a talk on that called The Perfect Storm, how kids grow with neurodevelopmental challenges because of birth trauma. And so, anyway, he was adjusted right after they got out of the operating room. And I think, all right, if Satan can't take him out by
Yeah.
having him aborted, or then another opportunity to have him aborted, then maybe he'll take him out or try to take him out by making it so his nervous system doesn't work. So if he's got to be on earth, let's have him really under functioning.
Mhm.
Wow.
But God had a different plan. He was like, nope, this kid's gonna grow. And Jaden is the first person I have ever taken. Oliver's the first baby I've ever taken care of whose mom was under chiropractic care since before she was born. So this is like a really interesting thing to see
Yeah.
because she was under care. I mean, my wife was under care when she was pregnant with Jaden. And so her nervous system has been working well. And so it's neat to see. And people think Oliver is growing, like developing quickly, like she can tell you milestones and stuff, but people were just like, there's no way, there's no way, there's no way. And we've thought several times, I wonder if this is normal. Like, I wonder if this is how God wants it. But all these kiddos born with nervous system interference, ear, nose, and throat trouble, and just all these things they grow into these neurodevelopmental challenges and things. I wonder if that's delayed. Like, I
But
Mm.
wonder,
consi but
yeah,
considered normal
but
because
considered
it's
Right.
normal. Yeah,
so
Right.
cool.
right.
I told Dr. Lazar too right after Oliver was born. I said, so he couldn't move his head right at all. He had like been hitting his head into my pelvis for like three straight days. So he was he needed to be adjusted. And so he couldn't turn his head to the right. We couldn't turn his head either. And after he got adjusted, he could turn his head and he took this huge deep breath and and I told my
Oh, wow.
dad, I said, I know what to look for. And I didn't know that he wasn't breathing right. So I felt like for all the people who don't know what they're looking for, like, how crazy is that?
That is an amazing thing with the breathing because you don't realize. My scans showed at one point, I think you said 60%. It was like 60% uh, um, the way that it should be. And
Pure function. Yeah.
and so I know that there were times, a lot of times I'd sit there and I'd be like, Kelly, you got to breathe. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath
Hmm.
because it just felt shallow, the
Hmm.
breathing. And so that's a great point. People are walking around and they really don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, if I had never worn glasses and then you asked me if I could breathe or see well, you know, I would say, yeah, I see fine. Why? Because I don't know any differently. But then once I put glasses on, I go, are you kidding me? I could have been seeing this well the whole time. Like, I didn't know that, you know? And we say, we know. That's why we say, everybody needs to have their nervous system checked. And in our society, I mean, our nervous system is what runs everything, our breathing, immune system, sleep function, mood, attitude, memory, retention, like major, major things. And unless we have epilepsy or Parkinson's or multiple sclerosis, unless we have those big, major, scary
Yeah.
conditions, we don't ever have our nervous systems checked unless you're intentionally having them checked, like in an office like ours. But as a society, I'm saying people don't have their nervous system checked. And it's like, I I can't wrap my head around it. We've got to let people know that. So we don't say or think that we can help everybody, but we do believe everyone deserves a good exam for sure.
Yeah, that nervous system, that is something I don't believe I've ever been told to address at all. And as a matter of fact, uh, that first appointment with you, um, one of the questions with you was, what's different about this treatment? Like, what is the difference? And that is what you addressed. You said, well, has any other doctor uh, completed these kind of scans on you before? And I said, well, no, I've never even seen these. Like, I don't even know what these are, you know? And so there's so many walking around. Like you said, if that's like the motor function, that's everything our body functions, our kidneys, our liver, all of that has to be lined up with it in order to function at 100%. And nobody knows about it. Like, I've seen doctors for years and not one, like until now. I mean, I'm thankful for you, but
Yeah,
wow.
we scratch our head. I mean, we've done a radio show since 2009 or 2010 actually, and I never had any desire to do anything on the radio, but I kept praying like, okay, God, this work saved my life. And not only that, a year or two after that, my brother died of pain medicine interaction at 35,
Mm.
otherwise healthy. And so it was this big contrast, this big dichotomy like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. And so I I just was like, God, you have to help us let people know this because people are sick and suffering and ineffective and dying, and they don't need to be. That like suffering is optional most of the time.
Yeah.
And so, like, you've got to help us tell people. And then I was invited to be a co host on a radio show. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, I've got little kids and I lead worship at church and I have a new practice. Like, I don't have time for that. And then, a couple
Yeah.
months later, request, no, I don't have to. And finally, God's like, are you serious, man? Like, you're asking me to help you spread the word. Like, how often does a chiropractor get asked to host a
Right.
radio show? Like, are you crazy? So anyway, that's how that's it. But it's just to let it really is just to let people know, like, hey, I know you haven't heard about this before, which I know either means that I'm crazy. I'm not saying I'm not, but like, if you've never heard of it before, it either means it's not real, I'm totally crazy, or maybe it's time to look at a different approach, you know?
You know what I want to address too, and I know we don't have a whole lot of time. I want you to be able to address like certain things that the majority of the people need to hear. But I want to touch on what Jaden had said a little earlier, and it is really about the mindset and the people that you're around. Because honestly, what I found myself around, I literally obviously this is the way that God intended it, because he doesn't allow more than what that he has for you, and he's going to keep you from all those things that he doesn't have for you. But um I felt like I had to be my own encourager. And even going to the doctors in a pain clinic, and what they do, they want to get you functioning, so they put you on so much medication. And I did find myself on, at one point, 8 Norcos a day. And at the same time, I got up to that 75 milligrams Durgesic patches, and that allowed me to function, which I look at it now and like, I don't even know how that even, happened. But that was about 3.5 years. But the doctor would get really upset with me because I would keep going back and going, you have to find something that's going to fix me, find something that's going to help me. And on his behalf, I understand that, he got mad and he was like, you just need to accept the way you are. This is as
Mm.
good as it's going to get. And but thankfully, I can't imagine if God was not in my life to actually speak to me and say, don't listen to that report. You keep walking by faith. My grace is sufficient for you. And so that is what kept me moving. But there's so many out there with the mindset that when a doctor tells them that this is as good as it's going to get, you better accept it. This is your life from now on, that would walk away and really accept that. And I want to speak to that, or have you speak to that, because um, it's extremely important, your mindset. Can you touch on that, please?
Yeah. What I will say for sure is the Holy Spirit will let you know if you'll listen whether or not what you're hearing is appropriate. So, in other words, in a really extreme example, if somebody said, Jaden, it's very logical that you murder this baby.
Right,
That's very logical because you didn't ask for this and you've got your life, like whatever. And so she might hear that and then say, there's something not right about that. And you don't have to be able to give a dissertation on, the four reasons that is, philosophically incorrect the way, I mean,
yeah.
whatever. It doesn't feel right. And doubt means don't. And
Mm,
so when somebody says to you, this is it, this is the best it's going to be, there's nothing else that can be done. If you say, man, I felt like that was the case, like if that resonates with you, or if it can be, the Bible says, check it against, like, if two or more say, like, check
yes,
it against, check the counsel of many and say, hey, is this true? Like, is this, and so if somebody said to you, hey, your marriage is unfulfilling, I mean, most people have affairs. You should go do that,
right,
and then you feel alive again. And then you'd feel it and you're like, well, wow, I thought that was wrong. But I guess, if you say so, like we would never do that.
right.
But then with our health and sometimes our money and our boundaries and stuff, we'll
Yeah.
totally resign ourselves and not have agency over that and say, well, the doctor told me. Well, so what? I mean, then that doctor doesn't deserve to be on your team. If they're not saying to you, look, the body is cause and effect. If you're having an effect, there's a cause. I'm not saying I know what it is, right? But there is a cause. And if we can't find it, we're going to help you find somebody who can. If you're not hearing that, you have the wrong team.
Yeah.
I mean, now and as far as mindset is concerned, I mean, Philippians 4:8 says, whatever is noble, lovely, right, just, pure, good, of good
Yeah.
report, think on these things. Sometimes we're going to get more of what we're looking for. And so, if we're saying, I always hurt and nobody cares, and no, be careful with that, because God spoke the entire creation into existence with his
Yeah.
words. And so our words are powerful and our focus is powerful. But I tell parents all the time, we take care of a lot of neurodivergent kiddos and people flying from all over the world. And it's so exciting to be able to do that. And the reason I say that, that's not a humble flex. I'm saying that because they're going back to their part of the world and they don't stay with us long term, right? They'll come in and we'll do like um, an intensive or something, and then they'll go back far away in different countries and they're not around us anymore. And I tell them, you've got to surround yourself with people who are going to stretch you. Do
Amen.
not get involved in a support group of a bunch of moms that are complaining about how hard it is to have a special needs kid. Now, if you support is important, community is important. God created us for that. But be really, really, really careful. Like, don't put your kid in the, autism, group. Don't do that if you can help it, because we are the sum total of the people we spend the most time with. And so
Mm.
if you don't have the right mindset, that's okay. Be around people who do, and that's entirely biblical, you know.
Amen.
There's a book that it's one of the green books. I talk about this all the time. I should know it, but a green book is like a chiropractic, not necessarily
Chiropractic
textbook, but
philosophy. Yeah, that's what
yeah.
it is.
And one of the things that it says, which actually I think is the title, that says healing starts with hope.
Mm.
And I
That's one of the great
there's
books right there.
And I like to, I'll tell that with patience because we can say we can do everything on our end. We can remove the interference. We can show you your x-rays. We can show you your scans and show you that what we're doing is working and that your body is healing. But if you don't believe that you are healing or are not being positive about it, you aren't going to see or let in the knowledge and information that we're telling you is making a difference. And that's one of the reasons we show you your x-rays and show you your scans so
Mm.
you can see the difference. But we definitely have people sometimes who come in and they're like hesitant, and we'll just let them know like the best thing you can do for yourself is believe, be hopeful and know that like this is the beginning of your healing journey.
I actually used that. I said that with Dr. Dan. I think it was about my third or fourth appointment. I walked in and he was like, "How you doing?" And he's so upbeat and all of that too. And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm doing good." But I told him, I said, "I feel like you guys have given me my hope back. Like I was going through this process of I'm getting older. I'm feeling worse. This is just the way it's going to be. And I walked in that, like I said, that day with Dr. Dan, and I'm like, you guys have given me my hope back. And he goes, that's what we want to hear. so, so
Uh,
thank you
that's
for.
on purpose. It's true because, you know, i- let's say somebody's in crippling financial debt,
Hmm.
and then Dave Ramsey says, save $1,000 for your emergency fund. If you don't have hope, you're like, what's the point? Like, why would
Right.
I even try to do that? But once you feel hope, see, the Bible says without vision, the people will
Perish.
perish. So we have to say, look, the best is yet to come. What does this make possible? Look, this hurts and I don't like it, but I have to believe that this is going to make something possible. I can't, my wife lost, she had a tubal pregnancy and miscarried after our second child was born. That hurts.
Yeah.
That sucks. That's painful. As a result of that, I went on a quest to find equipment that could scan the nervous system because it didn't make any sense to me that if her nervous system was working, she would lose a baby because her
Mm,
body was designed to carry a baby. That might sound so sophomoric, but that's the way I think. Like, wait a minute, if your body's working well, that shouldn't happen.
right.
And so I went and I was like, I've got to find a way to scan the nervous system then, because what I was doing, I thought her nervous system was working well, but obviously it's not. And people would be like, don't be so hard on yourself. I'm like, I'm not. Just the reality is her body isn't working well. And that's not okay. We've got to find what the cause is for that. That's the whole reason we have nerve scanning equipment in the office. I would have never looked for nerve scanning equipment had we not had a crisis and had a reason to see if that even existed, you know? And so I scanned her and found severely irritated nerves in her lower spine, which, by the way,
Wow.
feed the reproductive system, and started addressing that. And then she got pregnant and carried Noah to full term. And actually, today is Noah's 17th birthday.
Oh,
But
wow.
that wouldn't have happened, you see? So, like, it sucks, it hurts. Joseph went to prison, he was
Yeah.
falsely accused. Those things are horrible, but it doesn't, so just because crap happens doesn't mean we're outside the will of God. I actually think the more crap that happens, the bigger the threat we are, and we probably are closer to what God has us doing anyway. I mean, nobody's killed me on a cross, so far I'm doing okay, you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely. Yeah, the more struggles you have, it is. It's like somebody's out there trying to stop you from, finding out, like you finding out more information about our health and our bodies, and to help so many people. Um, so I want to talk about just for a minute about you because you wrote a book, and
I did.
I want people to be able to get their hands on this and be able to know where your practice is. And I want you to be able to share a little bit about this, so um, we can actually have more people having testimonies and get you out there even more. I mean, I know you're out there, but I, I feel like I want to tell everybody about you guys.
Well, that's a huge blessing, and we appreciate that. So my book is you can get it at livelifewellbook.com. It's easy to remember. We want you to live your life really well.
Yes.
And so livelifewellbook.com. And then as far as questions, what I would encourage anybody listening to do is, a lot of times people will want, I want information. Great. I want to think through stuff. Great. I want to see what options are. Great. Those are all great. What I can tell you is, um, I'm not Jesus. However, if he sets the example, he didn't walk up to his disciples and say, you should consider maybe possibly potentially following me. So here's some information for you to mull over.
Right.
Go talk to 20 people. And in 6 months' time, I want to know whether he was like, hey, you in or you not? Success requires action. You sit there, it's just gonna stay like this longer. Nothing's gonna change. This is your chance. Now, Jesus, it wasn't a hard sell. I mean, it wasn't anything like that. He was just saying, hey, here's an invitation. I think you should take it. And if they said no, he was like, hey, I love you. And he left. So I do think there's something to be said about that. And I actually think that Satan can use decision fatigue to distract us even more. Like,
Mm.
should I do this or that or this or that or this or that look, if something makes sense or you have a nudge, check it out. I mean, as long as it's biblical, check it out. And so I always encourage people, look, I don't want you to think anything. If you hear anything I'm saying and you think, hmm, or maybe that's why I have migraines. I don't know. Maybe do not overthink it. There actually are ways to get answers. And so, what I would say is don't ever make a decision until you have information. And so, your next step is always to get information, but not general information about you. And so, I always encourage everybody, hey, if you're hearing this and you just want to know, we want you to know. Now we don't normally do this, like but um, for your audience, I don't want it to seem ever like we're going somewhere to sell anything. And so, you can leave your wallets at home, and anybody on here through June 21st, so for 2 weeks, we're happy to offer the nerve scans at absolutely no charge. So they can
Oh, that's
schedule and
awesome.
come in. They just have to say, that they're part of the sisterhood, and they can come in. And I encourage people to do that, because if we don't find anything, great. Guess what? Now you have information, and you have your information. When Jesus talked to the woman at the well, he knew her story.
Yes.
He didn't speak to her arbitrarily and say, hey, you may or may not be struggling with some stuff. Like, he knew what was going on. We're not Jesus, so we need technology to know what your body's doing, but we can certainly do that. And within a matter of minutes, tell you, yes, this is something that could be helpful for you, or no, it's not, but here's what we're finding, and here's who we think you should go see. And so that's what I would encourage anybody to do. Our website is feelgreatannarbor.com. And you don't have to be in Ann Arbor, but it's feelgreatannarbor.com. And if you're not local, reach out to us and we'll help you find somebody in your area as well.
Amen. Thank you for that. Thank you. And you know what? Put price tag on that too, because what you're offering, it's a lot of money for those scans that you're offering for free for this audience. So what would that
Yeah,
be?
Jaden, I don't know what our day one costs if they have to get all the scans and all the x-rays and stuff. I don't even know what that costs.
The day one price is normally, if you need all the testing, $869.
Yeah, that's a lot. So thank you for offering that. That's amazing. Well,
Absolutely.
we are at the end of our hour, and I just want to again say thank you. Jaden, I would like to talk to you more and have invite you to come and talk at one of our sisterhood gatherings. I think that would be amazing. I think you have a lot um, to just to give out there in the public, and I think that there's encouragement that's going to take place with you. And I feel like I'm not done with you, but our time is done right now. And I know
Well,
that you
thank you.
also you real quickly, you touch base, because I was listening to your show the other day about a ministry that you just got involved in, it sounds like. Is it?
Yeah, yes, it's called Love Runs. I just committed to run a marathon to help end human trafficking.
And that's amazing. So anybody out there listening to that, are you taking sponsors for that?
Yes, of course I am. Thank
Yes.
you.
You're Jaden, you're raising $1,440 is your goal. And why
Yes.
why is that your goal?
That's goal because there's 1,440 minutes every day that somebody is actively being trafficked, and so
Wow.
that is the amount of minutes a day that we have to do something about it.
Wow. That's powerful. And yeah, so I really do want to invite you to come and speak to us on that very thing, if you would. And we can get
I
together.
would love to.
Thank you. Well, Dr. Lazar, thank you so much. Jaden, thank you so much. And normally a lot of times we'll start off in prayer, but can we end in prayer? And
I was just thinking that. Absolutely. Absolutely.
would you like to do that, Doctor?
I'd love
Or
to.
okay, thank
Sure.
you.
Lord, thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you that Pastor Kelly is open to you and to the things that you have for her. And thank you that she is available. Lord, I pray blessings on whoever hears this, whether they're hearing it now or as a replay or whatever. Your hope is real, and our actual hope is in you. And so I pray that we would all just run toward you, and that you would provide us with whatever we need, because you've promised to do that. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for Jaden and her um, dependence on you. And I pray that that would encourage the people who are listening here. In your name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. And you guys have a blessed weekend, and I'll see you, I think, on the 30th. Have a great
Sounds great.
day.
Thank you for
Okay.
having us.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for being here. Have a good day.
You too.
Can you hear now?